Hello friends. So last time we were talking about what is HTML, the versions of HTML, and you looked at HTML syntax, whereby we talked about the tags, HTML attributes, and HTML elements, and I hope that was understood. Okay, today we'd like to look at HTML Boilerplate, and if you understand HTML Boilerplate, it will be easier for you even to develop your own web pages and to understand how HTML works. So without further ado, let us get started. So first of all, we have to define what is a boilerplate, right? So that you can understand whatever we're going to be discussing. So in computer programming, boilerplate is just, or it refers to sections or parts of code that can be reused or that can be included in different parts, right, without no repetition. So we'll be just using that, right, in all the pages that we are creating. So that is mandatory, and it should be included in each and every for example, in each and every HTML document. So in other words, we're just referring, it's just a reusable piece of code, right, that must be included in HTML document. So you will find out each and every document has such type of code. So instead of us repeating ourselves, we just use that piece of code in each and every document by generating it automatically, because it's very painful to write it, right, whenever you want to create a new HTML page. So this is a real example, which is the anatomy of HTML boilerplate. So this is the boilerplate that has been generated by Visual Studio Code. So this is the real, right? So you see we have the doc type at the top, we have HTML, we have and it has the attribute. We discussed about the attributes. We have the head, and we have the meta tags, we have the title, the body, and inside here, that's where we write the contents of a web page, right? So this is the example of HTML boilerplate, and we're going to see it in a real live in Visual Studio Code. So let us explain each part of this boilerplate so that you understand what does it do in the document and why we need it. So we talked of this doc type, right? Doc type actually refers to a document type declaration. So the browser actually requires to understand what type of document are you is it looking at, right? So it's just about document declaration. In this case, we are declaring that this is an HTML file. So it's just a way of telling the browser that this is HTML file. So this is the syntax, right? Less than exclamation mark, then you type doc type, and the file or the document is HTML, then greater than, you close this, then this is the doc type, and it can be written in smaller letters, or you can capitalize it, whatever. Then also we have another important aspect, which is HTML, which is this one, right? So this one is very important, right, because for example it has this attribute which declares the language. In this case, lang stands for language, then this stands for English. So it tells the browser that this particular document is in English format, right? So the browser understands and how to interpret it or to print it. So when it comes to HTML, right, tag is divided into two parts, with the head and with the body. So these are found within the HTML tag, right? So within the head, right, you see we have the head here. So within the head, we this is where, or this is the place where we see, or we have the crucial information about the document in itself, right? Information that describes the document, for example, the purpose of the document, and it includes even the the links to CSS or cascading style sheet, or the links to our scripting language. For example, the code for JavaScript, it links to those files. So those links are put inside the head, and other information concerning the document at the end. Then we have the body, right? That is also written within the HTML tag, right? The body, that's where it's a place where we write the entire content of our web page. For example, we can talk of text, we can talk of images, we can talk of videos, whatever we want to put on our web page or on our website, we write it inside the body tag in itself. So that's how it works. Then I talked about, we have inside the head, we have the meta tags, right? So the meta tags, as I mentioned, inside the head tag, whereby we see inside that head tag we have the description about the document itself, or the HTML5 at the end, or we are working on. So meta tags, actually meta is just refers to information about information. So it contains information about the document. For example, we can talk of, this is the meta tag that tells the browser about the responsiveness of the web page, so the viewport, content width, right? So this meta tag has to do with the responsiveness of the page at the end. So it is useful when it comes to responsive web design. Then also with this particular meta tag that describes the document in itself, right? So we see this attribute that says it's a description, then content of description, HTML basics. So this information is trying to describe the content of the document. The content of the document is all about HTML basics for beginners, and this is very fundamental when it comes to accessibility of the web page, right? Then with title tag, right? This is the title tag, actually is found within the head tag. So this title tag actually is what is displayed in the browser title tag. You see, if you open a certain website, you see a sort of a title, right, on the browser's title bar, right? And this one is mandatory, is required, because for user experience etc. So that title is actually required. That's the syntax of HTML document. Then I think that's all we've explained, right? The doc type, we have HTML tag, which is divided into two. We have the head and the body. Then inside the body we see information about the document. We see the meta tags that it describes the information, right, about the document, the content of the document. Then the title tag, which is displayed in the browser's title bar. Then we have the body, where we write the entire content of our page, right? Then we close the HTML. Then that's the entire boilerplate for us. So in order for us now how to generate it, most of the code editors have the way of generating this boilerplate because it is very tedious to write it from scratch. So when it comes to Visual Studio Code, which we are going to be using, we just type this, right, exclamation mark plus tab, then it generates this boilerplate for us. Or we can write HTML 5 semicolon 5, right, in small letters, then enter, or plus, then we press enter or tab, then we see the boilerplate being generated for us. So I think that's a description or explanation concerning the HTML boilerplate. I think this was very simple and straightforward for beginners. So now let us see this boilerplate in action or live in our Visual Studio Code. So now go ahead and open Visual Studio Code, then we meet there and try as well to explain in order for you to understand how this works actually when we are writing code. Okay, so now we are back looking at the Visual Studio Code, and we want to generate our own HTML boilerplate. As I was explaining, this is the HTML boilerplate live in our Visual Studio Code. So this is the boilerplate I was talking about. So we see it's live, right? So let me go ahead and delete this and start from scratch. I said you can press exclamation mark, right? Then you press tab, right? You see the boilerplate has been generated for us, which is simple and straightforward. So now let us also use another method, right? HTML semicolon 5, press tab, then our HTML boilerplate was generated for us, right? So this is live. So I was talking about this. For example, I talked about the description, right, about our HTML document, right? So this is the description, right? For example, here we can just say HTML basics for beginners, right? So this particular document, right, is all about, or it contains the content about HTML basics. For example, maybe it might be the article or whatever, but it's all about HTML basics for beginners. Then also we can change the title of this document. Maybe we can say HTML basics for beginners, right? We can change it. Then even here we can write our content, right, inside or in between, inside the body tag. So we can say HTML basics, right? You can even write a paragraph. You can say I'm learning how HTML works, right? So inside this HTML board, right, that's where we write the entire content of our web page, right? So I think that's it. Let me recap. This is the HTML boilerplate, right? We generate it using exclamation mark plus tab or HTML semicolon 5 tab. Then we generate this boilerplate. Then at the top we see we have this doc type, which stands for document declaration. Our document now is HTML. We're telling the browser that this document is HTML. Then with this HTML tag, right, and this HTML tag, right, it has the opening tag, which is this one, and it has the closing tag here. Then inside the HTML tag, right, we have, it is divided into two, with the head, right, and with the body, right? And this HTML has this very important attribute which tells the browser that this document is in English language. So, and I talked about that with the head tag. Then inside the head tag, that's where we put the links of our external CSS files or cascading style sheets or JavaScript files. We put all the links here. And also this, inside this, we put also information that describes our document. For example, meta tag that describes the contents of the content that is inside our document. Then from there, after head, we have this particular section, the body section, right? And remember that the head, we have the opening tag, then we have the closing tag. Then inside this, we put this information. Then we have also opening tag of the body, then the closing tag of the body, right? Then from there, inside the body tag, that's where, inside the body, that's where we write our content, the content of our web page. Then we write these particular elements with their tags, right? This is paragraph, this is heading 1. So I hope this has been understood, and it's very simple and understandable. Thank you so much for watching.